Center. Please notice in your bulletin that the youth will be going bowling next Sunday, a week from today. It will be a youth bowling outing, so all those of you who qualify for that, please plan on next Sunday. And I should along with that make this announcement. Our graduation picnic was our official graduation as far as Sunday school youth is concerned. So my daughter Rachel is out of youth, so she's going to have to move into the young adults group. So those of you that graduated, that's where you're at. Welcome to the new stage of life, right? And all the children, Sunday school grades, Sunday school ages, when we hit that graduation Sunday, it'll be time for everyone to be promoted, to move up to their new Sunday school classes if you've moved into that age bracket, that grade, okay? Ladies' breakfast is coming up. Men's breakfast will be coming up before that on Saturday, July 2nd. So men, please mark that on your calendars. Grab a bulletin and you'll have an idea of what's going on. The biggest announcement to make this morning, the one that I want to take a few minutes on, is what's coming up over the next couple of weeks with the start of our next round of small groups. Let me just pause for a second. If I'm correct, we do have a VBS meeting today after the service. Is that correct? At the site. So those of you that are volunteering for VBS, please plan to head to the VBS site after the service for a time of organizational meeting there. Okay. So here's how these announcements work together. How many dads do we have here? Stand up if you're a dad. All right. No, stay standing for a minute. Stay standing for a minute. Okay. So, okay, you can be seated. Thank you. I was trying to get a real fast count. We're thankful for the dads in our fellowship, and thanks for the round of applause you gave to them. Happy Father's Day. Can I ask for help from a couple of whoever? Could you hand out the books? Thank you. So if we can hand out a book to each dad, one of the things that is important to us here is helping families to build a Christian library, a good Christian library. And so as often as possible over the years, we have handed out books to the dads on Father's Day as a way of encouraging that. Now, I know it's kind of challenging because I've had enough conversations with men. I know that not all men are driven to sit down and read a book. We're get-up-and-doers, many of us, and the discipline of sitting down and reading a book is challenging for many of us. So I do realize that there is that challenge. But that being said, we want to encourage that in our dads. It's an important and helpful part of the Christian life. So we hand out these books as often as we can on Father's Day, and this book we're handing out to you for a Father's Day gift to say Happy Father's Day, but also because it's the book that we're going to use for our next round of small groups. So starting on Sunday, July 3rd, the first Sunday in July, we will have more details next week as far as locations are concerned. But a week from Sunday, I guess it's 2 weeks from today, so 2 weeks from today, July 3rd, we will be meeting 6 o'clock Sunday evenings in various locations for small groups. And we'll be reading through this book together as a congregation and discussing it together. So if you're here and you're not a dad and you want to participate in small groups, you'll have to get your hands on a book. It looks like we have a few copies left back there. I'd be glad to put those in your hands if you want to participate in small groups and you don't have a book. But we're going to read through this book together. We're going to discuss it together. and look forward to a lot of what I anticipate to be some rich conversations that we're going to have as we read through the book and discuss it together. So looking forward to that. You'll get more information on that over the next next week. Okay. So we're going to invite all those that the youth that participated in the mission trip to come on up and take their seats on the stage. And let me just say this by way of setting the stage. We'll see how this goes, but I will tell you that everyone up here on this stage has a heart full. Okay, they have a heart full. So be patient. How many of you guys are tired? I bet there's a lot of tired people. When you got a heart full and you're tired, to get that out is not easy. So be patient with us. There's going to be some stumbling over words and trying to gather thoughts. And some of us are not very used to speaking, looking at a whole room full of people, and so that might be a bit of a challenge too. But it's our desire to share with you some of what God did. We realize we're not going to be able to get all of that across, but some of what God did on our mission trip. So I just want to say a very special thank you to Stacy for all the work she did in preparing. Thank you. Stacy did a tremendous amount of work to find Wild Heart Ministries, and also then to coordinate and organize and make this trip happen. So very, very grateful to the Lord for her service in that. So I'm going to turn it over to her, and she's going to moderate the rest of the morning.
They gave me a cool mic, but is it on? Do I have to do anything? It says on. So just to piggyback what Pastor Steve already said, we are full of joy and excitement, and we have so much we want to share. So we've already prayed this morning that what we say is what God wants us to say, and that we can try to explain in a way that you can view yourself there or see what we're trying to speak. We're going to talk about a couple different areas. So we're going to do basically our daily schedule so you kind of know what it looked like. We're going to talk about interacting in community with the people on compound sounds bad, but on the fenced-in area that we lived with. We have a bunch of stories about going out in the community and working and interacting with the people there. We did an evangelism night of going out into the community, so we have a couple stories from there. We have some stories of worship and how we were stretched and experienced new things. And then even debriefing and just how to take it all in and work together to work through what we learned. And then us adults will kind of wrap up with some ending things. And then I worked on a video last night to very late, and I used a new program, so don't do that. I've been praying all day, but the video has this thing that says demo across the front. And so if demo does not appear, I will be on the ground crying because God's good, and he's still good, even if the demo's there. But at least the videos, you can physically see the work that these kids accomplished this week. I've never seen such a hardworking group. I had this demonstration we were going to do the day before where I was going to blow up balloons, and we were going to write encouraging words, and we were going to emphasize how encouraging and not tearing down. I didn't get around to doing it, and it wasn't needed. These kids just on fire every day to work their best, work hard. You will see poison ivy up here. You will see everything, but there is none of that in Harrisburg where we worked. It's in bags, and it's been picked up. So, woo! But yeah, so like I said, these kids are excited. I'm still processing what we did, but I'll turn over to them. I know I mentioned, guys, you could sit in your seats, but I realize there's people downstairs and there's a video. So if you could try to be centralized to when you speak, it would be awesome. Or maybe Braden can move from his seat, so if you want to stand close to your comfort zone area. But Sienna's going to start off with just kind of discussing our day and everything.
To start. Wow, great. I might just sit on James's lap because I hate this. That's okay. And also, Pastor Steve, it looks like there's way more people when you're standing in front. But that's okay. All right, I'm just going to jump right into what we did throughout the day, so you guys have kind of a big picture of what happened, and then you'll hear a lot more stories later on. Hold that for me. About each of the individual kind of time slots and things that we did. So waking up in the morning, first of all, I just want to say I had the great honor and privilege of being the adult in the room with 5 girls, and 2 more girls, actually 3 more girls regularly came in and just sat on the floor and talked and shared life. And it makes me want to cry just thinking about how close they got to each other this week. Like, you guys have no idea. It was incredible to watch. Like, I'm going to make them all cry too. Anyway, okay, bad way to start. So we got up in the morning. I played a song where I had an alarm. Very first morning, all the girls were like, Sienna, turn your alarm off. I was like, guys, it's not my alarm. Yes, 6 o'clock, the garbage truck came in, and there was beeping, and they were all grumpy, but that's okay. We made it through. So we got up. Breakfast was self-serve. Slowly came into the general area, common room, and we hung out and had breakfast together. By 8:30, everyone needed to be ready for the day. We went into the mansion, and we had a time of singing and a devotion from one of the staff members. All of them were very good, very just eye-opening, and help you to think about the big picture. Because we're not just there to serve for ourselves. We're not just there to serve that community, but we're there to help spread the gospel and to share the love of Christ through that whole community and through the work that we did there. So yes, breakfast, devotions. Then after devotions, we got ready for the work day. We usually had like 10 minutes, fill up your water bottle, put some sunscreen on, because let me tell you, it was hot this week. Yes, very hot. But everyone did a fantastic job staying hydrated. We had a couple competitions because some of us are a little competitive. And yes, some of us drank more than 1.5 gallons of water in one day. All right. Anyway, we worked for the morning. We split up into groups. Teams were about like 8-ish people, and we had team leaders. Sometimes there was interns with us. We went to our different areas. By noon, we were back at the mansion for lunch. 2 of the days, Tuesdays and Thursday, we went to a park, and one of the guys from the neighborhood, Brian, what's his title? Vice President of the Neighborhood Association. Okay, he paid for lunch for us, which was a huge blessing, to see how thankful everyone was for the work that we're doing in their community. But those 2 days he bought lunch for us, which was such a blessing. And so then by 1 o'clock, we were headed back out to our sites. There's a variety of stuff we did. Most of you know we're going to Allison Hill to pick up trash. Let me tell you, we did a lot more than pick up trash. There was a lot of trash, yes, but we definitely ripped out poison ivy. Yeah, a lot. Lots of nasty things. There was a dump site. So I just want, some of these terms are going to come up later, and I just want you guys to know kind of what that is. So a dump site is like a place, depends on the size. It could be anywhere from like where Judah and Noah are sitting all the way to the wall. It could also be from about all the way over here to the wall and then out about 3 rows. Maybe bigger than that. And trash higher than my head. Like, just garbage, guys. Kitchen garbage. Boards, nails, needles, diapers, all of it. Like, crutches. I mean, we had lots of things to find. We also ripped out brush. We cut down trees. We found snakes and salamanders and snails and all sorts of fun things. So that's kind of those are some of the things that we did. Picked up lots of litter. There were times where we would go through and we would cut down the brush, and then we would pick up all the trash, and then we would rake it, and then we would pick up trash again, and then we'd rake it again, and then we would pick up more trash, and then we would rake it again. And guess what? There was more trash. And so we would do that 4 times sometimes, and then it would be like, okay, time's up. It's just, this is how good it's going to get, and hopefully they see the love and the toil that we put into this, because we're doing this for Christ, and we're doing this for that community. Yeah, so then those are some of the projects that we did, and I'm sure you'll see more in the videos, and you'll hear lots of stories later. Around 4:30, we took a break, we went back to the mansion. Showers were very nice. And we took turns, but the shower at the end of the day was also always a blessing. We cleaned up. We had some free time. Sometimes we played board games. Sometimes we played outside. They had a really nice grassy area. Some of you guys saw yesterday when you were there. And we played kickball, and we played frisbee and volleyball and all sorts of things. Around 5:30 was dinner. And then the kids took turns cleaning up after dinner. It became quite a bit of a competitive chore, but also just a lot of fun, right? Yeah. So remember, when you tell your kids to clean up the dinner, it can be fun. So then after that, that was like by 6:30, we were done with that. 7 o'clock was a session. Monday night, Christina, Tannen's wife, shared. Very good. We had a little bit of time of worship. Tuesday night was street ministry. Wednesday night was a worship night. Thursday night was group games. And I'm sure you'll hear more about that later. After the evening's events, we had some free time. So we played a lot of card games, board games, played outside, just talked with each other, kind of debriefed about the day. And we also got to know, I think some of you know, we were there with another youth group, which was, at first, some of us were kind of nervous and like, this could be really awkward and really not great, but they did amazing. Like, we had so much fun with them and getting to know them and working with them and experiencing some different things, which was really, really cool and stretching. Okay, so that's pretty much the days. I had a couple thoughts, if I can find them, that I just wanted to share really quick from my personal takeaways from the trip. One of the morning devotions Christina shared with us, and her title was Radical Acts of Service That Will Change the World. And I'm a very practical person, so loving people can be challenging sometimes. But if you put it in a very tangible way that we did, like we did this past week, it can be such a blessing for us to get even new ideas of how we can love people and plant those seeds. One of the points she made was talking about Mary and Martha. And sometimes it's easy for us to either be Mary or to be Martha. And we're called to be both. You need to combine those, because we can't just always, love and right here. We have to do the practical things, but we can't just do all the practical things and all the serving. We have to do, you know what I mean, combination. Words. This week we were given an opportunity to go low, to humble ourselves, and to pick up the nasty things, to do the jobs that no one wants to do. The people of the city were super, super thankful for the most part. So you had people who would come by. Even yesterday, we were working, and someone came by and was like, here's 2 cases of water. We're just so thankful what you're doing for our community. And we were like, wow, thank you. Like, they didn't have to. But one of the other lessons that I've been learning for a while, but is loving without strings attached. And what I mean by that is loving without expecting anything in return. And that's hard, because as humans, we want something back. So anyway, I just want you to take away those 2 thoughts of loving without strings attached. And then the other thing is planting seeds. Yes, there are times for harvest, and oftentimes we get to see the harvest, but sometimes we don't. So this week we planted a lot of seeds. We planted seeds of hope. For instance, you have that mound of trash that seems like, I mean, Ava, she's over here. Okay, I was like, I know you're up here, and I know that's not you. Ava, okay, I know a couple of you other ones worked on the dump site the first day, but you walk in and you're like, this is enormous. Okay, that thing had been there for like 12 or 15 years. Okay, that dump site, it makes me like have shivers just thinking about it. It was nasty. Alex worked on it too. And my team came the second day and was helping them. But you have something like that that's been there for 12 years that the community is like, it's just there. It's not going away. It's gross. It smells. It's always going to be there. And when you clean that up, you give them hope that maybe they can change their life. Maybe they can get out of the situation that they're in, that they're trapped in, that they feel stuck in. And just planting that seed of change is possible because we have Christ. So those are the two things I want to leave you with. I don't know who's next.
All right. All right, we're just going to mention these are stories now when we were out in the community working and everything else. So I think James is kicking us off with working.
Sure. So my team was really fun. Braden and I were on the same team. And a lot of other people just from the other youth group, which was super cool to get to like work with them. But the first day we went out to this lot, and it was just like a hill going down to the woods and just covered with brush and all that. And we ended up getting it done by the end of the day and you'll see the pictures later. It's incredible to see the change we were able to do. And I just loved the serving part. And like Sienna mentioned, people would come up and thank you. That made it like all worth it when someone just tears in their eyes. They're just like, thank you for making our community better. I'm really planting those seeds of hope. A couple things that like really stuck with me. Over the past couple of years when Love the Hill has been improving this neighborhood, the crime rates and stuff have dropped. So not only are we improving stuff outwardly, but spiritually. Because when something on the outside is just more, it's not garbage everywhere. It's just like a cleared area. It helps people see things better, become more aware, and just help that. So like, I think for me, the trip was so cool, just learning how to serve and help people. The neighborhood coming in, I was kind of wary. I didn't know what it would be like because, I mean, it doesn't have the best reputation. But the people there were super nice, thanking us and buying us food. That was super cool. And then really just serving with our fellow believers, showing Christ's love. I think thing I'd want you guys to think about, if you ever do want to go, they have like things on the weekends you can go serve. I think it's just amazing I personally like working on things and seeing the progress. So when you can go out for a day and see what you've done and see how it improves the community, it's a really good reminder of what Christ did and how he served and was able to make life better for people. So, yeah. Let's go next. Do you want to share your story? Judah, you go.
Okay, so we had a really fun week. That was something that apparently they never did before. Is we had another group with us. How many was there? There was 50 people. That was the other thing. The staff was super nice. We all got along. We all had a really fun time. But I'm on the wrong track here. When we got there, we started on a hill. So when it was down the street, you're like, oh, this is easy. We'll take care of this all this morning. And it was just a little stairs, and you go up the stairs, and there's another level, and it's just another level. It was about 4 levels of just trash and litter of 7-10 years of trash that people just throw. We had a really fun time. After that, we went to we would join groups we took out a massive dump site, fortunately, they took out the majority of it, I'm pretty sure. So we got there, ran through that really fast. Altogether, we did 10, 12 sites. It was a ton of trash. Think they said we did, I don't know stats. We did bags and bags of trash. It was really fun. We got to go with the other group. We all got along really well. Yeah. I think it was really amazing to see how everyone was just so appreciative of just anything you do. They're super happy because I guess people just it just becomes part of their life, and they just get used to it, and once they see what it's like without it, it's just so much better without it. So, who's next?
Okay, so the story I'm going to tell is about this guy that we met while we were working. So on Wednesday morning, we started with this lot of grass and weeds, and it was just the same type of work, like cutting down the grass, weed whacking around, like raking out the stuff, picking up trash. And so we worked on that, but the overgrowth the lot was on like the corner of two streets, and there was houses down like a row. So the overgrowth kind of continued into the next yard, so we went into that yard and started working. But then we realized in an alley in between that house and the next house, there was a pretty large dump site. And it was probably like maybe from Judah and Noah back to the wall. And it wasn't piled that high. It was pretty small as dump sites would go. But it was still a lot of trash. So we started working on that. We pulled out all kinds of stuff like diapers, mattresses, an old foosball table, like all kinds of stuff. And so we worked for the rest of that day on that dump site, but we still didn't finish completely. So the next day, we came back. Our group split into two groups. One of them worked at a different area, and me and like 3 other people went to finish the dump site. So we spent that morning kind of finishing the dump site, and we got it super clean, and it looked beautiful. And so the 2 houses on the side, the one on the left side was kind of like abandoned. We didn't think anybody lived there. The porch was like falling apart, and the stairs were just destroyed. And then on the right side, there was this guy in the house. We kind of talked to him for a little bit. It was also really sad because he had 4 dogs and 1 dog crate, and we were very sad. But then, so literally right after we finished, we had taken all the trash. We were taking the last load down to the dump pile. And as I was walking back up, I saw one of the people from our group was talking to this guy on the porch. And so it turns out there's this guy living in that house that we had thought was abandoned. And so we walked up and we started talking to him. His name was Amadou. He was wearing this bright blue outfit. He was probably in his 60s. He was pretty old. And he was... Sorry. So he was from Africa. He said he had been living in America for over 10 years. And so then one of the other people in our group, they were actually the youth leader from the other youth group that was there with us. They said that they had been on a missions trip to Kenya. And he was like, oh yeah, Kenya. He was like super, super excited about it. And then his face like lit up. He was like, that's the home of Barack Obama. And we were like, what is Barack Obama? We thought it was this African word. We were so confused of what it was. And so then we realized he was talking about Barack Obama. And so we thought that was pretty funny. So then we asked if we could pray for him. And he said, yeah, you can pray that I could get enough money to finish my porch and stairs. And also, he had like an eye problem, and he didn't have enough money to get it fixed. So we prayed for him, and he was super happy and friendly. But then, so we were taking like final stuff down to the dump pile, and one of the other leaders stayed to talk with him. And so when he came back, he had more trash on his porch that he wanted us to take with us. And so he was throwing all kinds of stuff off of his porch into the dump pile. So we think it was him that threw it off in the first place, but he had more stuff. So he was throwing all kinds of stuff. So we were loading up a wheelbarrow, and we were just kind of waiting because we didn't want to get hit with like stuff from the porch. And we hear this like gushing noise, like a huge water noise, and we turn around and he's dumping this container of water. It's like a massive waterfall just falling off the porch. And so we were kind of laughing, but he tried to throw me this bag, the trash bag full of stuff, and I was going to catch it, but then I told him to just throw it on the ground. And when it hit the ground, it shattered and it was full of glass. But so we took all that trash down and cleaned it all up, and he was just a super nice guy, and it was really cool to talk to him and talk to someone who actually lived in the community, and it was just really fun.
Hi, so I'm going to talk about the dump site that I worked at. We walked in and it looked like pretty big, and we're like, how are we going to finish this? And so we started and we got a lot done. And the lady that lived next to it actually said that she lived there 7 years and it was there the whole time. So it was kind of sad. But then, so we picked it all up and stuff, and on our way back, she came out and gave us water bottles because she was so happy that we were finally picking something up. And we were dumping the trash that we got over across the street, and we got a lot over there, so we went back to the mansion. And then when next day we came back, and we had help with the other group, and we got it like completely finished, and it was really cool. So.
Today, we're talking about another experience that we had with people. It was Tuesday, so our second day of working, and I just got reassigned to a different group with my mom, 2 girls from another youth group, Miss Andrea, our leader Natalie, and then there was this one kid named Jason. He was one of Brandon's friends from a different church that was consistently coming each workday, even though we didn't have a group there or anything, so that was kind of cool. But we were working on weeding out this like old brick pathway that like it was completely overgrown with grass. We were like shoveling dirt, whatever, picking weeds, and eventually there was people walking by, whatever, and our group leader Natalie went and asked one of them if he would like prayer. And he said yes, so we were asking him his name, what he needed prayer for, whatever. His name ended up being, I think, Ramon. And we were about to pray for him, and it's like, wait a minute. He wanted to make sure to tell us his last name, because he didn't want any other Ramones to get his blessing that we were going to pray on him. And so that was quite funny. And then we prayed for him, asked him if we could lay hands on him. He said yeah. We prayed for him, and then there was another guy walking down the street who apparently Ramon knew. And so he called him over, and then we prayed for him, laid hands on him, whatever. And so then he started asking us to follow him down a side, like, alley road that we were at. So we started following him. And he brought us into this house, so apparently he was a part of, like, a mini construction crew type thing. And so we walked inside this house, and there's, like, 3 or 4 more people. And he wanted us to pray for all of them, so we all crowded around one of them, laid hands on him, prayed for him, and that it almost became like a mini assembling line type thing where we were all around him. One of them would walk in, lay hands on him, pray for him. He would walk out of the circle. Another person would walk into the circle. We'd pray for them, walks out, another one walks in, and we'd do this like 3 or 4 times, And eventually we finish everything, and then Ramon's like, now pray for the house. So then we all sat there, blessed the house, whatever. It was actually like a really cool looking house. It was all like bright colors, which I guess it's not very, I don't know. I like bright colors, so my house is probably gonna be very exotic someday. But and so we finished doing all that, and we ended up taking a group picture with them, all of them smiling. I think one of the guys made like a little heart in the picture and stuff. All kind of cool, and we ended up finishing up that project. I know every time we walked by the houses, it was kind of cool to remember praying for them over there, but I guess that's about it for that story. Yep.
So this week was really cool, but the thing that I'm going to remember the most about is the brick weeding. So if you don't know what brick weeding is, it's basically you sit down and you weed everything out of the brick. Sometimes you'll have to shovel the dirt off the brick or like get like tools and just go in the brick till you see the pavement in between. It's very hard, especially when the sun's just beaming on top of you. So yeah, the first day we had a great time. We didn't start out brick weeding. We were clearing a few areas out. And then we went home for lunch and we came back and we brick weeded. And it was the first time we brick weeded and we were all just really exhausted, really tired. And we finished the area and got popsicles and we just did it the rest of the week, basically. And it was pretty tiring. Very refreshing.
All right, so those are kind of stories of being out in the community. So we're going to have two talk more about living within the fence walls of the actual Wild Heart Ministries.
Okay, so I'm going to talk about working with the other team. So whenever we first walked in to the place we were staying, the other team was in the area where we all hung out, and the person who's like running everything was like, everybody say hi, and literally they all screamed at us. Literally everybody screamed at us. I didn't see any girls at first. I only saw boys like really just like yelling. And I didn't realize how much we'd actually be working with the other youth group. I thought it'd be like kind of separate and then we kind of like ate together and maybe slept together. Like I didn't realize how much we'd actually be together. But they were actually really fun. Like everybody, we worked so well together. I had four people from their group in my work group, and they were really fun. They worked really hard. They were fun, like really funny, and they did ridiculous things like we all pushed each other in wheelbarrows around back from the dump sites, like after dumping stuff. The two boys would like hit the brooms together, like us playing with swords or something. I don't know. They did the same thing with shovels some other day. It was really funny. We all just sat and talked. We played games in the evening. We danced, like ridiculously loud dancing with music like so high that I don't know how I can hear anything. And we'd all like jump and my legs hurt like so bad after that. But yeah, that was really fun and they were just so awesome to hang out with. We played coup and a bunch of other games. We were outside a whole lot. They had a really big yard to hang out and play in. But yeah, they were all super fun. My biggest takeaway probably was like the same as most of the other people said, how thankful everybody was for what we were doing in the neighborhood. Like they all just stopped and said thank you to like everything we did, and it was so awesome.
So I'm sharing more about the activities we did in a little more detail. So there's a big grass area on the left side of the mansion from the front. I've also lost my voice. This is going to be really bad. And we'd all play a bunch of games. Sometimes there'd be like 3 or 4 games going on. Sometimes we'd all be playing like one big game. Like the one day I think it was Thursday maybe, we all played this one giant game of kickball. And it was so much fun. I think we played like 3 different games. We did one mixed, and then we did one youth group versus youth group. And then we wanted to do a third with staff versus like the volunteers, which didn't end up working out. But we did play another game. It was so much fun. One of the games we played was volleyball. We would make like this really big circle that covered like the entire area and hit the ball back and forth, which was so much fun. It was crazy though, because I was like running in and out of the circle. They were hitting it with their feet, their heads, anything. They were like diving on the ground to get balls for no reason. It was so funny. We played, towards the end, we started playing some Frisbee, which was also fun. One of those things where people were also diving on the ground, trying to get the Frisbees. We were experimenting with different ways to toss the Frisbee, and it was going everywhere. We almost hit a few cars, and it was not very good. Okay. Frisbee, that's right. And so that was a lot of fun. We did some football. Just a few people like football, and they tossed it around. That was a lot of fun because people like tossing it like under their legs, over their heads, and I think a few of our balls went over the fence that we had to go get to. The one day. We were all inside, and it was like 10 o'clock, something like that, and we wanted to play a game. And so we played a game called Electric Shock, and we would put 2 teams on each side of the table, and the point of the game was to be able to squeeze a person's hand fast enough after you see the coin flip to grab the cup at the end of the table fast enough. And so it was loud and crazy, but a lot of fun, because everyone would be like freaking out when they because if it's tails and they squeeze down the line and it's incorrect, then you have to go backward. And then the second someone got it wrong, it was all like a big like screaming. Like one side was super excited and the other side was like, oh my word, how'd you do that? And it was a lot of fun. And then the person who was flipping the coin, it liked to slide off the table. And so there was a lot of jokes about that too. It was so fun. And then the last thing I'm going to share is the one day, I think, was it Thursday? It rained. But it was a big rain, and we actually ended up losing power for, I think it was all night, around 10 o'clock, 6 o'clock the next morning. And so I think Kiri started it, and she ran outside to the grassy area on the side of the house. And she took 2 or 3 people with her. And then I went to go look for Kiri. And I think I took one of the twins with me. I can't remember which one it was because they looked the exact same. I think it was Addie. And Arabelle followed us too. And we went outside and we were there was this, so it was basically a slip and slide because it was raining so hard that it had puddled over. And it was a good inch deep. And we were we'd run from one end of the yard all the way and slide. It was so much fun. And then, but the one problem with that was the fact that it was lightning and thunderstorm. So then we were called back inside. But one of the girls had a speaker, and so we were playing music. We spent 30 to 45 minutes in the little, I want to call it a mud room. But it was, you walk in the door to the carriage house, and it's just a strip of cement, probably about the size of the stage. And we were all in a circle around this girl, and we were playing different music, and it was so much fun. And that's basically it. Oh, sorry. Yeah. Yeah. So, I think my sister had a lantern flashlight. She stuck them on the table, and they were playing Coup, and it was so much fun. And then afterward, we all dried off and got warm because people kept leaving because it was getting cold and stuff like that. So I think the final it was 5 of us, and we're no, we're just gonna be done and go get warmed up and stuff like that. And then we all went to watch the Coup game that was going on, and there was other card games going on.
Yeah, we all got to laugh because before you would go get candles but now everyone just took their phones out and the flashlights, and yeah, but it was a good time. We made the best of it. Next, we're going to discuss Tuesday night. We got to go out and evangelize, and so we have a couple really cool evangelize stories of while we went out into the community. So I'll start.
Okay, so I'm a very talkative person. Anyone that knows me knows I'm loud.
People downstairs can hear you.
Okay. Can you hear me? All right. So we go out, and I'm like super confident. I'm like, we're gonna be outreach. Talking to people is my thing. So I'm like, I can do this. This is gonna be easy. Like, I'm good. So we're going, and I go, and I'm in front, and I've never done evangelism, just going out and talking about God. I've went out for the church, and we've handed out stuff for VBS, but I've never just talked about God and tried to get to know people. And so we walk up to this first lady, and my leader, he's like, you're going to go first, Michaela. It's just me, him, and Elsa. And so he's like, you're going to go first. I'm like, I got this. So I walk up to her. I'm like, hey, how's your day? She's like, good. I'm like, that's great. Can I pray for you? I know one thing about her, and that her day is okay. So I'm like, dear Lord, thank you for this day. Dear Lord, bless the rest of her day. Bless all of her days. And that's when it goes downhill. I lose all confidence I had, and I'm like, I do not know how to talk to people. I don't know how to pray to people. So I'm like, all right. So after that, I'm like, amen. I felt so bad because I'm praying for her. She doesn't know how awesome prayer can feel. She knows that this little girl just came up and is like, bless all of her days. So my leader, he's a great guy. He starts talking to her. We get to know her a bit. She's like waiting for her ride for work. So after that, we walked away, and we start walking down the road. We're in like a little bit of a rough area, and I don't know if these guys saw our leader, who is a football player, really big guy. But I know they saw me and Elsa. They're like, hey, ladies. Me and Elsa are like, we're not going over there. Our leader's like, we're going right over there. So we start walking up. They see our leader, and that's when you can see the fear on their face. They're like terrified. And he starts talking to them. He completely changes to talk to them, which was a really good thing because they warmed up really great. You know, we said our ages, our names. They said their names and ages. You know, we got to know them a little bit. And so we're standing there, and the little 13-year-old boy, he looks at me. He's like, you're her mom, right? Me and Elsa. I'm like, I'm not. We're 2 years apart. We get to know them a bit. Our leader asks them, he's like, do you guys play any sports? And the one guy, he's 16, he has like his foot on a pillow, he has an ice pack on it, and he's like, no, I used to play. And he's like, I don't know why our leader asked, but he's like, you used to? He's like, well, I was shot. And I'm immediately taken back. I'm like, wow, a 16-year-old shot, like that is really rough. For some odd reason, our leader asked, I thought it was obvious, where'd you get shot? To my surprise, it was not his foot, it was his butt. So our leader just starts laughing at this poor 16-year-old kid who was shot, and his friends are like, bro, if you got shot, would you be laughing? He was like, not at the time, but I would afterwards, knowing that God saved my life, which is a really great way to say, like, just bring Christ into the conversation of like this normal conversation with these kids. So after that, we're walking. We say hi to this guy who didn't speak any English, and our leader could speak Spanish. So me and Elsa didn't do too much for that conversation, but we found out a lot about his life. He was a chef. He had traveled all around the world, Italy, Japan, cooking. He was a vocal coach. He loved Christian music. He said Christian music was the best music ever because it was so heartfelt, which was really cool. He actually prayed for us, which was incredible. We all held hands in a circle with some of his friends, and they prayed for us, which was really incredible because we were there praying for people. I was still a little bit discouraged in my opportunity that I ruined, I felt. And we're walking, and I see these two ladies. They're older. And I'm like, can we go talk to them? So we go over to talk to these ladies. And they were really like, at first, the one was like great right away. And the other one was a little bit like, what do you want from me? You know, are you going to say hi and ask for money? Are you going to say hi, tell us what you want, and just leave for the rest of her life? And so we talked to her, and we warmed up, and we found out, like, she warmed up right away once we talked to her and said that we just want to get to know the community. And we told her what we were doing and what we wanted. We wanted to get to know her. And she warmed up. She told us that she read the Bible and that she actually really was interested. She even quoted a verse to us, which was really cool. And so we're talking to her, and the other lady's husband comes. And this is where it gets a little sketchy and a little bit nervous because he was just not in his mind at this moment. He was definitely just not. And he comes over and he starts just finding anything to try to get us to say the wrong thing so he can denounce Christ. He's like asking us all these difficult questions so that he can just attack and like drag us down. Our leader took he just did really great with words to get this guy actually to open up and say why he didn't like Christ. And then we actually brought him up to show him how we love Christ and how Christ loves. And he actually seemed to really open up. So that was definitely like a seed planted right there, which was incredible to see. And then our last encounter is our leader was talking to someone. Me and Elsa walked a little bit ahead. And we walked to the place where the first girl was waiting. And, that whole time I was praying, Lord, I'm sorry I did not use your spirit. I want you to come again and give me a second chance. And there was that same lady still waiting for a ride. And I didn't have my leader there, and I decided to talk to her. And so I did. And I found out that she was actually really nervous that her ride didn't come. And she had to leave an hour to go to work. And she was already supposed to be there in 5 minutes. And that she was nervous. Nobody was answering.
So, I was with Arbel, Addie, Becca. Not this Becca. There was a Becca on the other team. There was a Noah on the other team, and then there was another set of twins on the other team. So, and we decided we were the last group out to start going to the evangelizing, and we decided to be different and go to the right instead of the left where we had been cleaning, and we met this guy. There wasn't much people on the street, but there was this guy named Charles and his daughter, Jess, and we asked if we could pray for him. Apparently, he'd been having eye problems that had him seeing double, and everything was blurry, and he couldn't see most colors. So we got to know her daughter also. They lived together. And we got to pray for him. Then we walked down farther and we saw this guy on stairs. He looked really stressed out. So we stopped and talked to him. And we learned a lot about him. And then my leader, Sam, started praying, and she stopped in the middle of prayer. I was so confused. We were all looking up, what happened? And it turned out that she heard God's voice saying that he used to do art, and God was telling her that God told her that she needed to encourage this guy to get back into his art, because that's what God wanted him to do with his life. And that was super cool. And then we found this one more group of guys. We had Raymond, Gary, and a gentleman that could speak a little bit of English. And I already said him, but yeah. Raymond and Raymond and Gary. Okay. And he was kidding around. It was really funny. because we had to use Google Translate to ask them if they needed prayer. And then Sam couldn't figure it out for the first little bit. And whenever she got it, he joked around with us and was like, we want all the cops to go away from this area. And he was like, and we were like literally about to start praying. He's like, no, I was joking. And he really just wanted us to pray that the crime rate were to go down and that the cops weren't needed a whole lot. And so that was just really cool. And my takeaway from this is that I need to listen for the Holy Spirit's voice more so I can be able to do and help people find what God wants them to do.
So when you're there with other churches, everyone worships a little bit differently. And so our group got to experience some new things. And so Kiri's going to talk about some of the ways we were stretched and some of the ways we had to discern and handle those situations. So
I lost my voice this week, so please bear with me because I sound a little bit scary. So Wednesday night, we didn't really know what we were getting into. It was going to be a worship night. I didn't even know we were going to be doing that. So we walked into the room where we meet up in the morning, and we started off by praying. We were in our groups, and we stood up, we started singing, and the songs were repetitive, and they were not what we are used to. And I looked around, and our whole group looked kind of like out of place. They looked a little bit uncomfortable, like they didn't really know how to worship to this and how to just feel God's presence. So afterwards, we tried to do our best. Oh, my voice is dying. We tried to do our best to just embrace it and sit down. Okay. Afterwards, my group, I was in Sienna's room. Our group got together and we just sat down on the floor and we talked about it. And it was really a blessing to be able to feel so close to the girls that we could discuss this. And there was no arguing, there's no fighting. We just sat, we listened to each other. We agreed with what we had to say, and we were determined for the next time that we were going to be able to just feel it a little bit more. And we realized that there were some perks to it, but it was really good to grow in that experience. And it's something that we need to be ready for when we go into more outward experiences like this on mission trip, that we need to be prepared for new things, because worship isn't just one thing. There's so many different forms of worship, and I don't think we were prepared for that. So my takeaway would probably to be not to be so quick to assume, because I think I can speak for the whole group. We were nervous that there was another group. We didn't know what to expect. I was a little bit had a guard up whenever we showed up because I didn't know what to expect. But I have made so many amazing friends, and I don't know what it would be like without them. So I'm really happy that the other group was there, and yeah.
Okay, so first I want to give a big shout out to Sienna because please clap. Yes. She was our room leader, and she was absolutely amazing. She was like everyone's big sister. We could go talk to her about anything. She had an oil for everything we needed. It was really awesome. I had an amazing group of girls, and the Wiki twins and Corinne weren't in our room, but they hung out a lot, and that was really great. So yeah, going off of what Kiri said, the worship was definitely not quite what we were used to. But it was great to be able to come back and talk with each other about what we thought, what we experienced, and then how we could handle the next time that happened. So one thing I wanted to point out, and this was all Sienna, after every day we would meet together and we would go through this thing, and we called it High-Low Buffalo. And we would stay There we go. On the beds or on the floor, and go in a circle and just say a high from the day. So something that was awesome, we really loved. A low, something that wasn't so great. And then a buffalo was really anything. It could be something random, something really funny or hilarious that happened that day, and whatever. And so we just go in a circle, and we got really close through that. And we could have stayed up till 2 in the morning talking. Sienna had to be like, okay, move on, next person. Because we all love to talk and, shared a lot through that. So that was really awesome. One really funny thing, on Friday, we went to Indian Echo Caverns, and there was this one room where they turned off all the lights, and it was a little crazy, but we get back that night, and Addie was like, guys, when they turned off the lights, I just saw bricks, because, she had been brick weeding for so long. And I brick weeded for about 20 minutes on Saturday, like right before we went to lunch. And I can tell you there's no good way to do it. Like, you can't, like, you kneel, your knees hurt, you squat, and your legs get tired. It's so hard to, like, pick everything out. It's miserable. So you did an amazing job, and your entire team. I have no idea how you did that. And then also, off of what Judah said earlier, I had an amazing team. I'm just going to let you know. I had a great leader. I got to work with Sienna and my dad, which was awesome. And Michaela and Judah were on my team, and then Sawyer, one of the guys from the other group. We had an amazing team, an amazing leader, so much fun, so many jokes we made. But the first lot we started at, it seemed really easy when we first saw it. It was like a set of stairs, and we heard it was just a stairway we had to clean out. I was thinking it would be like between 2 buildings, maybe little. And we thought, we're like, oh, we can get this done maybe like 45 minutes to an hour. And we go up the first flight of stairs, and there's like probably at least 6 flights of stairs going up. And then it's like just this giant hill. And so we were like, well, it's just the stairs. I mean, maybe we'll have it done by the first day. And then we realized we had to do everything beside the stairs, which is like the stage wide and all the way up. And it was pretty insane. Like James, we have a little bit of competition between our teams. And James had a very hard sight. I will let him have that. But ours was like 3 of those up a hill. So we're going to take that. It was hard. But we had so much fun doing it. And then looking back on it, we got it done in like a day and a half. Looking back, we walked through that again later the week, and I was kind of shocked about how we had done that. I was like, there's no way we could have done this without Christ's help and his strength through that. So that was really awesome to say. I learned so much through this trip. Grew a lot closer to the Lord, grew a lot with my friends. One thing that really stood out to me, there were many things, but one is that God has a plan for you. He made you in his image, and you are perfect the way you are. And just to trust him in everything that he has you do. So, yeah, I enjoyed it.
All right, adults, any takeaways you'll share? I know Pastor Steve has one, because when you take a Spanish speaker into a neighborhood, it's awesome. I just wanted to sit there and listen, and I couldn't understand half of what they were saying. You have to do a mic because they have to hear you downstairs.
Well, I'm going to stay sit. Now you can hear me. Okay. I want to say thanks for, I don't know if anyone mentioned, and I can't usually do this without crying, but thanks for your prayers, because I'm sure you all were praying for us this week, and that's really appreciated. And thanks for letting me get to know your kids. I mean, I was the old one there. For some reason or other, Braden says I'm old, because I am well in my 60s. So anyway, this week was really good for me. Not only, and I'm reading this, by the way, because your kids do well. You're great talkers. That's another thing I learned this week. They talk and talk. It was really good for me, not only in working and serving the neighborhood on Allison Hill, but it showed me how selfish I can be. And also, how much do I really love others? Does it show by my actions? First John 3:18 says, "Dear children, let's not merely say that we love each other. Let us show the truth by our actions." Jesus loves the poor and needy, and we are to love them too. And I'm thankful I could be a part of loving and serving the people in Allison Hill this past week. And then again, I say, I was blessed to be able to work with your kids. Trust me, you were a blessing to me. Thank you.
I'll just stand up. I want to say, so the organization that we went with, Wild Heart Ministries, gave us like a pamphlet for the week with all of their devotionals and that type of thing in it. And they asked a set of questions. I don't remember all 3 of them, but one of the first ones was, what's something that you would like to see the Lord do during this time? And I wrote unity within our group and with the other group, and you guys really did that. I saw the Lord work in your group and bring a unifying spirit, and that was just a really good encouragement. And I think we kind of get in this mindset that missions is an overseas thing, and it's like a big trip that we plan for and we travel far away for, and that just also stuck with me, that there's missions right here, that people need Jesus, and it might be the next city over, or it might be the house next door, or the seat next to you, and people need Jesus. And to see these kids' willingness to go out there and to stretch themselves and to do some street ministry, that's not really something that we practice a whole lot, but they did really well, and that was stretching for me. But just a reminder that there's missions here. I'm all for going abroad. I love to travel, but it was just a good reminder that there's missions next door. So.
So I was going to point out maybe the sacrifice that was made and what happens through that sacrifice and people that are willing. As you heard up here, they're filled with joy and excitement, and that's through a lot of the things that they got to experience together. And there's something to working with a lot of people. A lot of hard work went into it, but whenever you have a community around you, plowing and toiling alongside with you for a common goal, it makes that work go a lot better. It's more enjoyable, right? So there's just that's just one experience. It's just one lesson. Okay. So through just a willingness, I know my struggle leading up to this, I was sharing with brother Matt here. For me, it was just simply participating. It's pretty easy for me to just sit back on the sidelines and say that's for somebody else. I'm too busy. It wouldn't be worth my time. But I knew that it was something that God is asking all of us to do, to serve in some capacity. And I don't know if they really realize how much they sacrificed either. I asked them earlier, was it worth all the poison ivy, the cuts, the lack of sleep that we had? And they all said easily, yes, it was. It was worth the sacrifice. And in a sense it is, and you don't really get a chance to experience that unless you just simply obey and be willing. How many of us have been asked to join in on a game or participate in something, and inside of us we just want to sit back and say, no, I'm not interested in doing that. But if we have those people pushing us, or if we just simply are willing to do it, then we participate, and then at the end of that, we think to ourselves, boy, I'm really glad that I got a chance to do that. So it was just another one of those experiences for me to say, boy, I'm really glad that I got an opportunity to be able to connect with all of you a little bit closer, and to be able to be part of a bigger project. I know they got to see the progress of what they were working on. It's easy to, whenever the pile is above your head and the whole way back to the next room, and to be able to work alongside and get that stuff out of there, it's easy to see that progress. But the progress that we don't typically get to see, that I wanted to point out also, was the Wild Heart ministry. The fact that we are going up there, we're just giving a week of our time, and there's other people that are coming. You know, there's a rotation of volunteers helping out this ministry, and it's part of something much bigger for that community. So it was just good to be part of that, and I think that's another analogy of oftentimes we don't get to see the progress that we're making for God's work. You know, as we're simply just obeying in these little tasks down here, there is a much bigger thing going on behind the scenes that we don't always get the chance to reap from those seeds that we get to plant. So that's just another takeaway that I had, to be a part of something, and to have that picture of being just a small part of something much bigger.
Well, hopefully you all are enjoying the testimonies. I was there for the whole week myself, and I guess I wanted to preface my comments by telling you a little bit about my journey in terms of deciding to go. There's kind of two parts to it. The first is being Father's Day. I'd encourage you guys who are dads, at some point, go on a trip with your kids, a missions trip with your kids. This is only my second work trip. I did one with my older ones, with Brian Emmerich back a number of years back to Long Island. And so I kind of have my next crop coming through, and to have a chance to work with them, it's really a blessing. It's really a blessing. So I'd encourage you to make that part of your testimony, in that you don't just tell your kids what to do, but you lead by example. It's not do what I say, it's do what I do. And there's a blessing in that. There's an opportunity in that. So I'm not guilt tripping anybody, but just think about that. That's part of your journey. The other part is I work in a pretty high intense, fast-paced environment. And when I took a management job 4 years ago, I find trouble sometimes connecting my life's work vocationally with my spiritual life. And so one of the things I read in a book about 2 years ago was there's this equation: change of place plus change of pace equals a change in perspective. And I found that to be very true. To take maybe it's a sacrifice. You got to take time off from work. You got to leave part of your family or what have you. But to step away from the grind and to put yourself in a place that's maybe uncomfortable, a place that's out of your norm, and to push yourself a little bit is really, really good for us. And so hanging out with teenagers all week, that'll push your limits. But going into Harrisburg and being a part of this ministry was a real blessing. Probably one of there's lots of takeaways, lots of neat conversations, but I'll add one thing, kind of jumping off of some things Justin said. The way I view it is that we're stepping into a part of a bigger narrative. All of our lives, all of our Christian lives and our heritage, et cetera, are all part of a bigger picture, and it's a bigger narrative. And so to step in and to support Wild Heart Ministries and what they're doing, we're there for a week. We're tilling, figuratively speaking, sometimes literally speaking. We're tilling the ground. We're planting seeds. And we don't always hear or see what that means. But when we walked into the to the carriage house. They had a map on the wall, and they started 5 years ago. And they had the different blocks of the city that they focused on each year highlighted in different colors. So this year we were in an entirely new section of town that they hadn't been to, and this was the second week in this section. So there's still a lot of people that didn't know who we were. So I got asked many times, who are you guys with? What's this about? So you have an opportunity, you have a door to explain why we're there, who we're with, and what we're about. So that was a great opportunity. But then the other neat part is I happen to personally have about 3 conversations with different members of the sanitation workers from the city. They were coming through. They coordinate with Wild Heart, and they're coming through to figure out, hey, what's this group up to? Where's our next pickup site? How are we going to get in there? And you start talking to those guys, and a lot of those guys had a light in their eyes. They were standing a little taller, working a little harder, because we were all on the same team. And you realize that putting your hands to the plow and even putting your hands to physical work can open doors. And like you've heard testimony-wise here from the kids, many of us had opportunities to have those conversations when you realize there's a sense of hopelessness in the physical environment that surrounds where a lot of these folks live. And you come in there and you change that environment, you go low, you humble yourself, and you're doing the dirty work. Why would someone do that? It's a great way to crack open the conversation. So we're thankful for the opportunity to plant seeds, and it was definitely a trip worth taking. So.
I want to say, what's that? We got it in the camera. So I wanted to say first for all the parents here, that, I was there Sunday night through Thursday night, through all the work days that we had there, and you guys should be very, very proud of your teenagers. Like, the work ethic was incredible. I was on the disgusting dump site for like the majority of my time there. Actually, Pastor Steve and I volunteered. We didn't know what we were getting into. And but I got to we joined teams because it was once we knocked down some of this pile, it just kept going and going and going. So we joined teams. I got to work with about half of them, but just the work ethic was incredible. The leaders, they have a lot of young leaders who are probably senior high school to college graduate age range, all early 20s, and their work ethic and leadership ability was really impressive for the age that they were. But they also, I heard them commenting probably outside that some of them didn't hear, and some of the teens from our church just on the work ethic, that they were shocked, and they said, if so and so's on our team, we'll be fine. So that kind of thing was really neat to hear. I personally I had a lot of takeaways from being part of this. I was personally a little bit wary myself. I think James or somebody had mentioned that. I've been in that area in the Allison Hill community before for some work things and other volunteer events. There's a lot that goes on in the area that you may not see here, and even clean up trash. You can see it through just needles and piles and piles and piles of alcohol bottles. Yeah, anything you could possibly imagine. You see all that. We saw some things when we're out walking in the community. That could be shocking from what you may see in your normal life. But everybody's talking about how appreciative that community is. So this Wild Heart Ministries, they renovated this huge mansion. It's like 20 bedrooms, and they have a carriage house that they renovated as well. So they did this all over time, but they really felt that God called them to go clean up trash in this community. This is after they felt called to be there, and then as they're there, God led them to clean up trash. And really, they explained to us multiple times, they're really doing that to have the ability to share the gospel with people. So when you talk about building relationships, they've truly built a trust with the community, which then made it, honestly, I felt very easy for us to engage. They encouraged us to go to people sitting on their porches, because a lot of people out during the day are wanting to see what we're doing or ask us, like Matt said, where we're from. And that really gave us opportunity to have an easy conversation, to get to know people and to be able to pray with people too. And we did this prayer walk. You heard a couple stories about some of what goes on in that community. We went up to the right on our prayer walk a little further north, and maybe even a little more of a rough neighborhood. And one of the ladies I got the chance to pray with, she goes, yes, actually, I was actually just shot in October, and I was holding my 8-year-old niece, and she was shot as well, and just shared a whole bunch of her life. But to be able to speak with them and pray with them it was an incredible thing. I actually wish I could be able to do more of that. Actually, Pastor Steve, so we had kind of split up. Pastor Steve was in my group, and we were on the walk, and we were each actually talking with different people on the night, and Pastor Steve can share about some of that too. But just anybody that speaks Spanish, there is an incredible potential in that community. I mean, I don't know, 50% maybe of the people we ran into. A lot of times you try to engage, and some people from Honduras or Mexico, wherever they were from, you would say hi and kind of glaze over a little bit. They didn't even know enough to interact. But if somebody spoke a couple words of Spanish, then they lit up. And that opened up a lot of really neat opportunities. And they had some Spanish Bibles there that you could share too. And I share one funny moment. We had a lot of fun. Pastor Steve and I, we actually lost. We lost our leaders the one day, so and our team did a great job just keeping at it. Pastor Steve did probably 100 wheelbarrows in the one day of like 50 to 100 pound bags of drywall and cement and trash and all this. But I think maybe the third day we were out in a cul-de-sac, and it's called Summit Terrace, the neighborhood. We were in just the far end of South Allison Hill, out towards where 22 comes down into the city. So, and one thing I'll note too, the organization that this ministry has is incredible. So they block out, 20, 30 blocks of the city at a time, and they have a plan for 2018, 2019, 2020. And they were already ahead of schedule when we got there, but they made it the whole way through South Allison Hill. So 13th Street, which runs along the river, anything basically south of that, and Allison Hill above the actual downtown city of Harrisburg. And then I'm sure they'll continue to work north, but part of it is boarding up homes, removing this trash, just making the sidewalks and public areas look presentable. Like they said, I think part of it too, boarding up the vacant homes there has helped to deter some of the drug trade and all of that, and drive that somewhat north into the city, improving the neighborhood they're in. But we were in a cul-de-sac, so the city comes out to pick up, we're picking up things that they can't reach with their equipment. So we're cleaning out this essentially field, an old home, and put piles there. And I kept seeing them. They had this clam truck with a big scoop on it and a crane arm on it. I was like, that would be really cool to operate that. I said to Pastor Steve, I said, what are the odds that they would let me pick up some trash with that? And he said, no way. And I like a challenge with things, but he goes, it'll be a liability issue, but the city was very, very thankful that we were there and appreciative that we were there too. And I think it spoke volumes to the couple guys from the city of Harrisburg that came out. They were, I think they're pretty shocked by what they were able to accomplish there. But anyways, I went up to the one. I said, hey, the couches that you're picking up, would you let me use that? Grab her arm, and he goes, sure. So. And I didn't know it, but they had a couple workers, but he happened to be like the deputy director of public works or something like that. And so he let me pick up a couch with her. It was really neat. But they, like Sienna or somebody may have said, on Saturdays and different times, they have people that are regular volunteers there. So I would encourage you to go and spend a day kind of clean up that community. This opens a lot of doors to be able to share the gospel with people.
All right, well, I'll start by appreciating, I know we're way past time, but I would like to take a takeaway and then share an email or a text that we got that just kind of wraps it all up. People had told me that we'd get a lot of thank yous, and so I can't say that surprised me. I'm still grateful for that. But what I learned was the hope that we brought into the community. So Ben and Val are in charge there, and months before we even get there, they're out in the community. They have clipboards, they're taking notes, they're walking up and down streets, they're peering over fences, they're doing all these things. So they were doing this the one day, and of course, white people snooping around looks a little suspicious, writing down notes. And so a lady named Teresa, so Miss Teresa came up and And so he's like, well, we're looking for jobs and things we can do. And she's like, really? Like, she's confused by this. And he's like, yeah. She says, well, I have a job for you, you know. And he's like, I don't know if you really. Ben's like, just take us to it. And of course, it's this huge 7-year dump thing that's taller than I am. And this lady is hesitant. She has like, yeah, I'll give him a job to do. And she takes him over and, okay, we'll take care of it, ma'am. No, we'll take care of it, ma'am. Just blown away. And then to have her Tuesday night when there was prayer night, Ben went and took a group up there, and Teresa found him, and just tears. I mean, the hope of seeing something that they had seen for 7 years. A lady named Loretta. What is Loretta's job in that community other than bringing tears to every... Okay, so she's the president of the community. I didn't know we had presidents of communities, but they do there. And they just drove her around and showed what was happening. And when we were eating, the adults had a meal with Tannen. He shared this text for you, and I can't think of a better way of describing this trip to you. But this is what... this is from Loretta. She says, there is a light in the eyes of all your volunteers, and a strength that is no short of supernatural. I've wiped so many tears of joy away today that I've run out of tissues. All of you, and I mean all, have renewed my belief and answered my prayers that our neighborhood can be as vibrant as it was 40 years ago. Continued blessings to you, your family, and especially your wonderful group of volunteers. Praise and celebrations are definitely in order. And so that was my takeaway. I didn't realize the work I was going to be doing was giving hope. I knew it'd give some encouragement, but the seeds have been planted. This new neighborhood they're working on this summer, I mean, they're welcoming Wild Heart with open arms. It's finally their turn that they're coming to do their blocks. And like I said, Brian, I mean, food and all these types of things. And so that is what I took away, is the hope that these communities are getting. So, do you guys say anything yet?
So I know that it's later than usual. Let me just ask a quick question. What are we doing with that video, Stacy? I just asked you to. Okay. So is it... It's about 10 minutes. I guess we could... Do you want to sit and watch the video, or do you want to just... We'll play it, and if you... Okay. So we'll play the video. They'll put it on in a second. So thanks. It's a special Sunday. So just two things I want to say. I was asked to share about... my experience on that night walking around the evangelism night. The first thing that struck me was how uncomfortable I was. And it surprised me because street ministry was part of my growing up. So we're going to have to figure that out. Okay, it's good. It's all right. It'll stay on for as long as I need it now. So, and the second thing that surprised me was how quickly I got comfortable again. It was like riding on a bike, you know. It's like you get off, you get on. So, but I had an opportunity to meet a group, a couple of Spanish, a couple of Mexican guys, and the one had just gotten into the country 4 days before, and he was didn't speak any English at all. He was as many Hispanics are from a Catholic background, and he had enough of that in him to know certain language and to say certain things. Many Hispanics say kind of habitually, si Dios quiere, if the Lord wills it, if the Lord wills it. And that was a part of the conversation. Also part of the conversation was him sharing what his life had been and his dream of coming to the United States. And now that he was here, just hoping that he would be able to find work and such. He talked about the difficulties of getting across the border and the things that he had to leave behind. One of which was a Bible that he had been trying to pay some attention to because he was leaving behind a life of drugs and alcohol abuse and was trying to better his life. And he said, you know, I'd gotten this Bible and I was going to read it, and they took it at the border. I couldn't bring anything over with me, like I'm here because God let me be here, because God willed it for me to be here. And so when he was done sharing with me his story, I just said to him, I said, well, I'm not going to tell you all my story, but you keep using the phrase that God has willed it, and for some reason he's let me be here. And I said, well, I never planned to live in this country. And through a set of circumstances that I didn't want, I ended up living my life here. And I said, secondly, you've only been here 4 days, and I'm only here for a week, and God has allowed our paths to cross. I said, if you really believe that God willed it stuff, then we have to take a second to think about why it is you and I got a chance to meet each other. And I said, I think God had ordained for us to have an opportunity to have a conversation together. I was able to share share with him about the Lord, and he had kept talking about the improving of his life and becoming a better person, and I kept saying, and so I just took the opportunity to say to him, improving your life's a good thing, becoming a better person's a good thing, but those works aren't going to get you to heaven. What you need is faith in Jesus. And so when I heard about his Bible being taken from him, I said, they've probably got some Spanish Bibles back at the mansion. So I was able to go back, get him a Bible, bring it back to him, and open it up to the Gospel of John, say, this is where you start. You read the Gospel of John, and you pay attention to who Jesus is and why he came. Your good works aren't going to get you there. You need Jesus. Read the story of Jesus. And he assured me he would. The next night I was able to go back and check in on him again. I just said, listen, I'm leaving tomorrow, and wanted to touch base with you again. His brother was there, and his brother said, hey, can you get me a Bible in English? And I said, yeah, I'll get you a Bible in English. And then the first guy says, well, I was telling a friend of mine last night about meeting you and what you had said to me, and the time that we shared together, and that you had given me a Bible, and he asked for a Bible. Do you think you can get another Bible? And I said, yeah. I said, how many more people do you want Bibles for? He said, well, I can get at least a couple. So I was able to go back to the mansion again and bring back 3 Spanish Bibles and another English Bible. And so there's a bunch of people in a house somewhere in Harrisburg on Vernon Street that are hopefully reading their Bibles because of that trip. So it was a blessing. Last thing I want to just say really quickly is this. I had a friend years ago when we were coming back from a mission trip. He said to me, every mission trip I go on, I'm mad for a month. He said, I just try to stay away from people because I'm mad for a month. And everybody responds differently to these things. Right? He talked about the frustration of coming back to a place where nobody seems to care about the things that he cares about. That that there's a certain sense of people that aren't there, and so they don't really know what it's like. And so you can't expect other people to share your excitement and your joy. But he talked about the frustration of coming back to a place where nobody's seen what he's seen and nobody's burdened for the things that he's burdened for. And I just wanted to say to all the parents that are here, your kids came back, your youth came back with a certain experience that they're going to process for the next few weeks. And it's going to affect them in different ways. They met friends that they're not going to be able to see on a regular basis. It's physically tiring, it's emotionally challenging, and it's spiritually challenging. And they're going to come back with a mix of things that they're going to process in drips and drabs as it comes out and they remember things. And I just want to encourage you to be patient with them and to listen, and through them, maybe, to let God stir your heart towards something that he might want you to be involved in as well in the future, okay? So I just want to take a second to pray for the group. I know it took a lot out of Stacy as well, and everybody then has to return to real life. And I got to tell you, there's a letdown after something like that. There's a letdown coming back to real life. It looks rather mundane. after the excitement of doing something like that for the Lord. So be patient with everyone, okay? So Lord, I just pray for this group now. I thank you for their hard work, their love for you, their devotion to you, and their willingness to stretch themselves. I thank you, Lord, for what you have not only done through them, but what you've done in them because of this time. And so, Father, I pray that your Spirit would minister to them, that you would grant them rest for their bodies, but that you would also grant them growth for their souls, Lord. And I pray that your Spirit would apply the lessons learned and the newfound perspectives that you've given to them. I pray that you would minister to them through it, and that you would show them what is their calling to be your servants in the time, the place that they are called to live. In Jesus' name, amen. All right, if you can start.